Hi everyone, Meet with Movie Recap here. Before I continue to review the film, it's a good thing for you to prepare snacks first, and if you're done, please directly subscribe to the channel to support me to make a video. This time I will discuss the storyline of film called Eden. The film produced in 2012 was directed by Megan Griffiths. The film is inspired by the story of congkim, who was abducted or trafficked around the 90s. In this film, the main character must struggle and adapt as a prostitute and their efforts to escape from the place. The story begins on a Saturday in June 1994. A teenager named Hyunjae, who had just graduated from school, seemed to be helping her parents take care of the store. Just like teenagers in general, Hyunjae also sometimes do naughty things such as smoking secretly or planning to go to a nightclub with a friend named Abby. The father apparently found out that his daughter likes to steal time to smoke behind the building shop. The father only suggested that Hyunjae immediately stop smoking. Besides that, her father also gave a ring as a gift for Hyunjae's graduation. One day, Hyunjae's mother assigned Hyunjae to record her store's monthly financial statements because on Monday, the reports he will take to the bank. Because later tonight there was an appointment to go to the bar with Abby, Hyunjae pretended to work on the report until later tonight. At first, the mother disagreed because she was worried that Hyunjae was in the store alone. But Hyunjae again assured that she will be accompanied by Abby and promised to go home before 10 p.m. Eventually that night they were both able to go to the bar and have a good time drinking together. At the bar, the two of them meet a man who seems to catch Hyunjae's attention. The man claims to be a firefighter, and because Abby sees that Hyunjae likes him, and finally Abby says goodbye to look for another male friend. That night of the week they spent with their respective partners until finally Abby went somewhere and Hyunjae was escorted home by the man. Hyunjae seemed so innocent as they joked together along the way, until he said to call his friend, and that's when Hyunjae realized that the fireman's shirt worn by the man turned out to be fake, but unfortunately it was too late because afterwards Hyunjae was caught. Elsewhere, a police officer named Bob was on patrol and saw a local policeman with a resident observing the body of a woman lying in a hole. The local police concluded that the woman was an outside prisoner for wearing a tracking bracelet on her leg. But soon, something unexpected happened because suddenly Bob immediately shot the two people. Meanwhile, Hyunjae wakes up and finds herself in the room with her hands cuffed. Inside the room was a guard, and then came a woman who seemed to be a doctor. The doctor then injected the anesthetic because Hyunjae was constantly poisoned and asked to call her parents. After being unconscious, the doctor then forced the braces used by Hyunjae and also bathed her with the help of the guard earlier. After being cleaned, Hyunjae was placed in a dormitory-like room containing girls who had the same fate as her. Her legs are now attached to a tracking device like the one used by the body of a woman found in a field. And it turns out that this is all related to Bob. Bob is a police officer who has an important role in the business of buying and selling women. His accomplice named Fawn comes and gives kittens to every girl in the place as a playmate. He also warned against trying to escape because they were in a remote areas far from the settlement, or if forced they would have the same fate as Maggie, the body found this afternoon. Hyunjae at the time just stayed in her bed and then approached by Bob, who explained every rule that was there. All girls are required to bath and clean themselves if Bob threatened to hurt his family. He explained that he already knew his address and also knew that her father had reported losing his daughter. Bob gave 2 days so that Hyunjae could adjust, and before leaving, Bob also gave a new name, that is Eden. The following days, Eden lives according to the rules of all bathing together as scheduled, and after each, check pregnancy with a test pack. Not only that, they also have to routinely check the health of hygiene. A few days later, Fawn gathered and told some girls to run errands and changed clothes, including Eden, who finally got her first assignment. They were then taken in a van to a place where they were given the task of starring in a porn film. Of course, Eden was very scared, let alone saw her friend who had to be in handcuffs. But after being threatened, she was finally forced to obey the order. A few days later, Eden got another assignment. She was then taken by Fawn to the client's house, and there Eden had to serve an old man. When the Fawn waited, suddenly heard a cry, and it turned out that Eden beat the old man. Seeing Eden is not in place, Fawn immediately runs away and manages to catch Eden when the woman asks for help from the mothers of complex. They can't do anything about it because Fawn claims there is policeman who is arresting drug addicts for making it difficult for Eden to be punished by being immersed in a tub of ice. The incident makes Bob's work Fawn to do his job properly and reveals the fact that Fawn is Bob's stepson. Day after day of the month, and it doesn't feel like it's been 1 year, Eden is there and used to her routine. On one occasion, Eden talked to Priscilla, who is her roommate. There Eden knows that a woman who always gives test packs to girls is Petiana. She is the favorite woman of Fawn or Bob. She can choose a job that she likes and is free to ask for anything from Bob, and that's why Petiana wears the ring of Eden that her father used to give. But the conversation stopped because suddenly there was a guard who forced Priscilla to come with him. The night as usual, Eden and a few other girls were taken to a private party of strip-nosed men, and she was chosen by an old man. Eden, who this time is used of facing the situation, seemed calm. She could even make the man satisfied with her service. When going home, Eden hides her heels just in case Petiana fights when asked for a ring. When Petiana was already in her room to fill the bed, Priscilla, who disappeared, was either taken anywhere. When all was asleep, Eden launched her action to ask for her ring back. The two of them fought until they were hurt by Fawn and the guards. Fawn, of course, angry and punished Eden by telling her to swallow the ring. After the ring was swallowed, Eden tried to take the attention of Fawn by offering to be his spy. Because he thinks the girl, including Petiana, behind often laughed at Fawn for being Bob's beheading. But at the time, he couldn't believe it and told Eden to go back to her room immediately. One night, Fawn brought Eden and two other girls to the customer's place to be used as a spectacle during a drug party. As usual, Fawn waits for the event until finished while enjoying drugs that are usually brought and used alone. When all was done, he then invited Eden to charge the payment, and there was a commission because there was someone who didn't want to pay according to the agreement. When all was paid, unfortunately, the other two girls had escaped and made Fawn very angry while continuing to trace the route following the signal from the tracking device. When at the red light, Eden realized that the two girls were asking for help in the convenience stores. She was confused between letting the two girls off the hooks or vice versa. But in the end, Eden told him in order to gain the trust of the Fawn. The following days went as normal as usual, until one day Eden began to be trusted by the Fawn to clean up in his private room. It was during the cleanup that Eden also found out that the man who claimed to be a fireman used to be a friend of Fawn. Then Eden was again given a new task of replacing Petiana as the recipient of the Booker's bone. Petiana refused because she was afraid of the rule if the girl was more than 20 years old would be killed because it was useless, aka no one else order. Fawn explained to Eden to record all orders of the clients and confirmed to immediately hang up if anyone asked for the price. According to Fawn, the phone asking the price is likely to be the FBI in disguise because their subscription already knows for themselves what the price to pay. One day, Eden was invited to visit a man supplying opium or drugs that will be used to anesthetize the girls. In addition, Fawn also taught Eden to drive a car. While continuing to chat, Fawn explained that his business is very organized with the help of Bob. Since then, Eden gained various trust, even including the manager, and recorded every girl who had just entered or who came out to be sold to another country. While accompanying Bob fishing, Fawn also asked about the development of the murder investigation conducted by Bob a year ago. Bob then replied that everything will be overcome afterward. I initiated Fawn too much to worry about. He also told me a few things about Fawn. He was born into a fanatical religious family and could only read when he was 16 years old. Not accepting being made fun of, Fawn attacked and beat Bob until death. Eden was so panicked to see him, and Fawn only said he did it on orders from the big boss because it turned out that there was someone else behind the business who must have a higher rank than Bob. After the incident, they both went to deliver a pregnant girl to a house inhabited by several men, one of whom was named Mario. There Eden heard that Mario had managed to kidnap a new girl who would later be brought by Fawn. When Eden asked permission to go to the bathroom, she saw a room full of doctor's equipment and crepe. In the other room, it turned out that there was a Priscilla who was pregnant, but at the time, Eden could not do much. She only promised that she would try to get Priscilla out of there. On the way home, Eden was silent because she realized that she had now entered too deeply into the business world. That Matt found asked what happened. Eden only replied that she didn't think about the business of selling babies. Fawn became suspicious of the fear of Eden betray, and for proof of legality, he requested that Eden kill a girl. Almost all of the girls were shot dead. Fortunately, Fawn immediately stopped her and believed that Eden was really on his side. Upon arrival, Fawn saw that a guard named Ivan was already in a state of bondage because he was caught cooperating with the police. Fawn finally decided to pack up immediately and move to Dubai. But before that, they had to burn all the girls' belongings so that no evidence was left behind. After that, all the girls are dispatched first, while Fawn and Eden prepare some fake passport that they will use later. Then that's when Eden, who didn't want her free hope to disappear again, mixed drugs belonging to Fawn with cleaning fluids that he used to clean the bathroom, and when Fawn used it, he immediately coughed up poisoning and asked to be immediately brought drinking water. Feeling the plan was working, Eden then brought opium to anesthetize Fawn, but when she returned, it turned out that Fawn was already unconscious. Finally, Eden left with a bag containing money and also opened a tracking device that had always been attached to her feet. After that, Eden immediately went to Mario's house and offered money to redeem Priscilla. Mario refused on the grounds that the money wasn't enough. Finally, Eden only asked that she could meet Priscilla for a moment to say goodbye. But it turns out that she brought an injection of opium which then made Mario faint. Eden and Priscilla immediately left there, although Priscilla looked hysterical because it turned out that her newborn baby had been sold by Mario. After arriving somewhere, Eden called a number from a payphone and she finally cried when she first heard her mother's voice. And the movie is finished. Okay, that's the story of the movie Eden. Don't forget to like and share, subscribe also if you haven't. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.